Hi everyone! How are you guys doing today? My name is Miss Sue and I'm from the Young at Art Institute at Young at Art Museum, and I've got a really cool project for you guys today. Today we're going to be making a collage inspired by our neighborhood, and specifically inspired by Romare Bearden. I'm going to tell you all about the artist Romare Bearden in just a little while, but before I do that, let me tell you what materials you're going to need to be able to do this collage. So, because it's a collage, you know, we're taking a bunch of different kinds of pieces of paper and putting them together. So, grab yourself all kinds of stuff. Grab yourself junk mail. Grab like pieces of a book that's like damaged. Grab yourself construction paper. Grab yourself wrapping paper. Grab yourself any kind of paper you can possibly find. Right? You're also gonna get your trusty scissors. You're going to get yourself either a Sharpie or a pencil that you can draw out a shape and cut out if you need to. Right? You're also going to need some glue. You can use a glue stick if you want, but for this one, I'm using some white glue because there's a lot to glue down. So I'm going to use some white glue today. Alright, I'm also going to take a piece of cardboard, alright? There is a lot of stuff to glue down, and I'm going to be using a lot of glue. So I want something really thick that is going to be able to stand up to my glue and not get super warped. So, find all those Amazon packages that Mom and Dad grabbed, cut up your boxes. You got some cardboard. You can build on top of this, and you can totally make some really cool art on top of your cardboard. Alright, you guys ready to go? Here we go. Romare Bearden was an African-American artist who was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but grew up in Pittsburgh and New York City. He was a painter and he was a collage artist. His work is very narrative, and that means that it tells a story. Romare took great pride in his neighborhood and the people around it. So, as you can see, his collages are all about home, whether it was talking about the city in Harlem or talking about the South in Charlotte, North Carolina. His collages represent where he came from and his neighborhood. To start my neighborhood collage, I'm gathering all kinds of paper. I'm gathering junk mail and brochures and catalogs and scraps of paper and receipts, all kinds of stuff to make this really cool collage. So I'm going to start with a sketch to plan out my work. I'm going to start with a horizon line, and that's where my sky is going to end. Then I'm going to add another horizon line to kind of tell me where the city is going to end and where I want to put houses. I'm putting a line down for where I want the road as well, just as a guideline. I'm going to cut up some paper, and these are going to be my buildings for my city. As I'm looking through my magazines, I see a lot of really cool pictures that could be the sky. So I just tear that out and save them off to the side so that I can grab pieces of the sky to make the sky in my collage. I'm also tearing up a color that I think I can use for the grass. So my plan is to have some grass, and this color green is going to make some really cool grass. I'm drawing out a house because I didn't grow up in a big city with giant buildings. I grew up in a smaller neighborhood outside of the big city. So my neighborhood collage is going to have both small houses and big buildings. And what I want to do is I want to cut out and prep as much of this as I can. That doesn't mean that while I'm gluing, I can't cut and prep as well. But I want to have some stuff ready when I start gluing. Now I take my glue, and I'm going to spread just a bunch of glue on here. And that will just help me to kind of be able to put down the pieces that I like and see where everything is going to go. The glue, because it doesn't dry right away, I can lift up stuff and put it back on and really get an idea of how I want my sky to look. If you notice, I'm using a bunch of different kinds of skies because I don't want just one flat sky. I'm using a bunch of different pieces to make it look really textured. So now that I'm done with the sky, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the buildings for the big city. If you notice, I used my finger to kind of spread the glue a little bit so that it would be a nice thin coat of glue and not big globs. I'm using this paper to represent the buildings. And these buildings represent the city of Miami, big downtown Miami. Although that's not where I grew up. I grew up in the city of Hialeah. And I knew that the big buildings were off somewhere in the distance, but my neighborhood where I grew up had smaller houses. That's why I'm putting the big city way off in the distance, and I'm going to put little houses in front of that. I'm using a little bit more glue to make sure that the buildings are glued down really well, and I use my finger to spread it a little bit. I'm putting on a little bit of grass because it seems that in my neighborhood, there's a bunch of lawns, and there was always a bunch of grass. My neighborhood looked very green, whereas the city looked very gray. Now I'm adding the houses, and when I started adding them, I noticed the ones that I cut were way too big, so I had to start trimming those down, and that's okay. Artists always need to switch up their plans if it's not working. Be prepared to switch up your plans a little bit. So, as you can see, the bunch of houses that I cut, needed to be cut a little bit further down, and that's okay. Once I got the houses down, I added a little bit more green to kind of hide those edges. Now it looks like the houses are behind the grass. That's an artist trick. And again, I'm using a little bit of glue on my finger to make sure that all that paper stays nice and glued down. Earlier, I cut a nice big piece of black paper for the road. So there's the road leading through my neighborhood and into the city. Now, white glue dries clear, so I'm not too worried about having a big line of glue down my black road because when it dries clear, and I don't have to worry about having to be so super precise to glue down my little lines in the road. I was super happy to find this chick in one of the catalogs. Even though it's an advertisement for a t-shirt, she is a really tough chick making a muscle, and I love the attitude in her face, and I love the attitude that she has, and she really speaks to my story. One artist trick is you can fold your paper gently and make a little hole in it so that you can cut out a hole. I think this chick is going to hang out right in that corner. I'm going to put some more grass over in this side. Now, if you guys wanted to leave some spots of cardboard showing, that's okay. I chose to fill most of my areas in. Romare would use all kinds of stuff in his collages. He would use paper and photographs and newspaper, all kinds of stuff. So you guys can use whatever you like in this. When I'm done and it's dry, I flip it over and cut off whatever's hanging off the edges. I let the side of the cardboard kind of be my guide so that my collage will look nice and neat. Here's my finished product. Ta-da! Alright guys, so how'd you do? How did the neighborhoods turn out? How did those stories come out? Alright, here's mine. Alright, I kind of like it. That one's my favorite part, right? The chick cool chick, the tough chick. I do this a lot too. So I'm glad that I found that picture, and I'm glad that it fits into my story. You guys can tell your story however you like. It's your words and your art, and you can totally do whatever your imagination takes you. All right? Until next time, happy art making, and I'll see you again with some really cool projects.